Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. And folks, we have ourselves a series. The Diamondbacks take game 3 of the NLCS. Throw out all your sweep predictions and all that stuff like that. No. This Diamondback team, they showed up. They fought last night. And now the Phillies, they're still very much favored in the series. I still feel very good about them overall, but they've got some questions to answer. So we're going to get into what went wrong last night. We're going to evaluate the bullpen and the performance by a couple relievers, and also take a look forward at Game 4 with Cristopher Sanchez on the mound tonight. All of that on today's episode of Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for checking us out. I'm Connor Thomas, your host. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that helps us out here, and it helps you keep up to date on the latest news surrounding the Phillies through our work here at Locked On Phillies. So go ahead and do that for yourself, for me, for everybody, for the Phillies in general, because after last night, the Phillies, they need some help bouncing back. I don't think that they're in any type of trouble in the series yet. Now, you lose Game 4 tonight, you might be. But losing Game 3, it's your first game on the road. You got to remember, right? It all seems very clear after the fact. Like, that's the thing. It's like when you guys have bet on games out there, right? But let's say you're placing a sports bet and something happens and you hear something like a guy scores a touchdown and the announcer tells you, oh, that guy has scored in the last 8 times they faced this team. And you never heard that stat, but you're like, oh, of course. Why did I not bet on him to win? Well, I started thinking about it as far as the Phillies' flow of their schedule has been. And they played the final 2 games at home against the Braves in the NLDS. They won both of those. They played the first 2 games at home against the Arizona Diamondbacks. They won both of those. It was a long homestand for the Philadelphia Phillies, and this is their first game on the road since their Game 2 in Atlanta. So, yeah, that's back-to-back road losses for the Philadelphia Phillies, which is not great, but it's also they got settled in at home a little bit, and they went out and they had a tough performance. You got to tip your cap to Brandon Pfaadt, who threw incredibly well, considering he's a 25-year-old rookie with numbers that aren't that great, and he was put in a really tough spot against this Phillies offense. He delivered. Ranger Suarez delivered too. It was a great pitching performance from both sides. And the bullpen was just a little bit better for Arizona, and the offense was way too quiet for the Phillies. That happens. So it's not Ranger Suarez's fault. We're going to talk a little bit about evaluating the bullpen. I'll tell you right now, last night is in no way Rob Thomson's fault. It's on the offense. You have to create more offense than that. Scoring 1 run is not going to win you a playoff game. It's not. We saw Arizona, and you're like, okay, you shut them out in Game 2. You beat them 10-0. So you think, oh, you should beat this team every time. They're in the NLCS for a reason. This is why I've been cautious about saying, oh, this series is over. I still think the Phillies win the series. I do. And I think they win tonight, and I think they take a commanding 3-1 lead. There's a chance that we do not see them play in Philadelphia again in this series, that they could win the next 2 out there in Arizona, come back as National League champions for the second straight year. I don't know about all that yet, but I do feel good about the game tonight, and I feel good about the series in general. It's hard to win 4 straight against anybody, much less a team that's found their way to the NLCS by knocking off 2 division winners and one 100-game winner in the Los Angeles Dodgers. So tip your cap to the Diamondbacks. They fought back. Now, what happened with the offense? What was the issue in the series? Or not in the series, in Game 3, rather. So going into the game, I think I mentioned this on yesterday's episode. I might have said it on 97.5 The Fanatic on the radio, where I do the majority of my work. But Brandon Pfaadt was a guy who's been around the zone a lot. He does not walk a lot of guys. So you want to go up there and you have still try to have a measured approach, but you're going to be more aggressive than you normally are, thinking that he's going to be around the zone a lot. What Brandon Pfaadt countered with was a lot of breaking balls that were not in the zone. And the Phillies had seemed to make their mind up that they were going to attack early and often, and they did not adjust fast enough to what Fott was doing to attack them, which was not giving them stuff to hit. And if you walk them, okay, we'll live with that because walks don't kill us. And the Phillies weren't taking walks because they were being very aggressive at the plate. It was just simply a miscalculation on strategy that led to a bad approach at the plate from a couple of the hitters, and you couldn't string together enough to get it done. It happens. What are you going to do? Like, I don't think this Phillies offense stinks now. I don't think this Phillies bullpen stinks now. I don't think this series is in trouble for the Philadelphia Phillies now. No, like it's one game. It sucks they lost it. They had a real opportunity. The offense fell apart. Now, there is one thing that I would change with the offense. Like, I would keep everything else the same, except one thing. Bryce Harper is just not going to see anything at all the rest of the series. You cannot have Alec Boehm hitting behind him. You can't. Alec Boehm is just a black hole of a disappearance of offense lately. I'm not saying he can't come out of it, but I'm saying that you can't just sit him there and hope he does. I would bat Castellanos cleanup. I would bat Jase Medical cleanup. I would bat probably anybody else cleanup besides Alec Boehm, Johan Rojas notwithstanding. But no, I mean, looking at that, I'm not letting Alec Boehm just be back there and giving the Arizona Diamondbacks the chance to work around Bryce Harper. You should have someone who protects Bryce Harper, and the Phillies have not done that for sake of keeping the lineup consistent, but now you lost the game. Like, if you're winning, cool. Who cares? If you're scoring 10 runs a game, cool. I don't care who's batting where. If Alec Boehm is not protecting Bryce Harper in the cleanup spot, like, I don't care about any of that when you end up on the right side of the scoreboard. But last night, you lost. You need to find a way to make sure that doesn't happen again. And to me, the biggest offensive change that is under the control of the manager, which is as simple as just changing the lineup around, Alec Boehm cannot bat cleanup behind Bryce Harper anymore. You just can't. He hasn't been good enough, and that's okay. I'm not trying to completely just be miserable and hate on Alec Boehm. Like, no, that's not it. I still think he's a good player. He's been really good defensively this postseason. He's going to probably have a big hit at some point between this and if the Phillies get to the World Series. Like, he has been clutch at points this year. He's just, like, Bryce Harper's too valuable of a piece to be able to let another team work around, and that's what the Phillies are doing by letting Alec Boehm be there. So you have to change that. And the two guys that make the most sense are either JT Realmuto or Nick Castellanos. That's just how I see it. And I'd be surprised if Rob Thomson trots out the same lineup tonight. If he does, he better hope Alec Boehm has himself a great night, because if they lose again and the series is tied 2 games apiece, and it's because Alec Boehm is not allowing Bryce Harper to have good at-bats because you can just work around Bryce Harper and Boehm's getting out, well, that goes on Boehm for not producing, but it also goes on the manager for not protecting his star player. So something that needs to be adjusted. But coming up, we're going to talk a little bit about the bullpen and what went on last night, because I got a bunch of tweets about Rob Thomson this and Rob Thomson that, and this bullpen pitcher this reliever that. And, all right, folks, take a deep breath. I'm going to break this down for you, because I don't think we should be mad at any relievers last night. I really don't. I think the main concern should be the offense. I think there's an easy tweak to do, which I just told you about, moving Alec Boehm out of the cleanup spot, and I think this team is going to bounce back. Let's not panic, and let's have a proper evaluation of the bullpen pitchers for who they are as individuals. I'll explain what I mean coming up. Tonight, Game 4 of the NLCS, Diamondbacks, Phillies, out in Arizona. You can listen to every pitch of the Phillies hometown radio broadcast of that game on the SiriusXM app. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies, and you'll be able to pull that up. Again, coming up next, we're going to talk about what we have with the bullpen and evaluating last night's performance, the first loss since Game 2 against Atlanta. So we'll jump into that as we continue Locked On Phillies. First, though, I want to tell you about my friends over at Jase Medical, okay? Jase Medical is a great company that puts together the Jase case. So you've heard me talk about it before. If you haven't, the Jase case is a personalized emergency medication kit that contains 5 essential antibiotics that treat the most common and deadly bacterial infections. You're in a medical emergency, you need medicine like that to treat bacterial infections, you got it with the Jase case. It can be a lifesaver. You can also customize your case, and you can add additional life-saving medications based on your unique needs. Let's say you're allergic to something and you want to have that in there, like an anti-allergen. Go ahead and you can add that in. You can customize things. So Jase Medical wants to do their best with the Jase case to make sure that you are prepared for a medical emergency that you might face in your personal life that you otherwise wouldn't be ready for. Like if I was walking down the street right now, I don't know, man, if something happens to me, I'd have to call a doctor. I'm not a doctor. Jase Medical with the Jase case gives you the chance to take care of stuff yourself in a pinch if you need to. And it can be a huge, just like weight lifted off your mind to know that you have medication you might need at any given time. And that customization that you can do, I don't know why I can't say that word every time I read this copy. Customization. We're just going to go with that one. The ability to customize the case and put in extra stuff that you need or other stuff that you might need. Like that is perfect for the individual need of someone with specific health issues or health concerns. So go ahead and check out Jase Medical. And when you go to jasemedical.com, enter code locked on at checkout and you'll get a $20 discount on your order. That's promo code locked on at jasemedical.com. All right, let's get into the bullpen because there were two guys that really drew the ire of the fan base yesterday. Well, three guys: Craig Kimbrell, Orion Kerkering, and Rob Thomson for putting them out there. All right, let's just break this down. All right, I don't understand how people could possibly be mad at Orion Kerkering right now. The kid started the season in low A ball, and now he's pitching in the NLCS. I don't know if you folks understand how difficult that is or how much of a just rocket-like projection that is in a career over the course of a couple months. Yeah, that's big time, okay? That would be like if one day you started a podcast and in like 3 months you're on ESPN talking like you're hosting SportsCenter. Like it's a huge change for the kid. And he's handled it every step of the way. This has been his first misstep, not just in the postseason, since he's been called up. He was due for one. It kind of was, right? We haven't seen him be bad yet. You don't just come up as a young player right out of like low A ball and working. No, he worked his way up. He didn't get elevated from low A ball. That'd be crazy. But like he started the year there. You don't come up as a young player like that and not hit adversity. He hit his adversity last night. But he had proven to that point that he had been good enough. He pitched in game 1 against the Atlanta Braves in the NLDS at Truist Park. Hostile environment, one of the best offenses in the history of baseball, a 2-0 game in favor of the Phillies, and he went out and he pitched a scoreless, I believe it was either the 6th or 7th inning. I mean, like that's nails. That's as tough an environment as you can put a young pitcher into, and he was ready for the moment. He goes out tonight. Who's perfect? Like nobody, no reliever is perfect, all right? I think maybe there's this whole people who saw the 2008 team remember Brad Lidge, and they're like, oh, well, it is possible for a guy to just have a perfect season. Like, I guess 1 in a trillion. Like, people don't do that. There are going to be times where you go out and your stuff isn't working. He wasn't spotting his slider last night. That wasn't his best performance. I'm not saying Orion Kerkering was good. Be nice to him. I'm saying this kid has given you a lot, and he's going to have points where he messes up. Rob Thomson trusted him. He didn't get the job done that time. We don't have to rip the kid or the manager for trusting a guy who'd been good for you in the past and the kid for having been good and having a slip up. That's just baseball. Like it happens, folks. You're going to get out. You're going to give up hits if you pitch. Orion Kerkering did not have his best stuff last night. You're going to need him the rest of the way, and you're going to need him in seasons to come. So take it easy on the kid. I get it. Not his best performance. Not one that we need to jump down his throat for, okay? It sucks. But if the offense scores, it doesn't matter. And then the Craig Kimbrell thing, right? One, who else would you expect Rob Thomson to go with there? It's the 9th inning, 1-run game. You go with your closer. That's Craig Kimbrell. That's why you threw him out there. I don't have any issue with that decision either. Like, that was Kimbrell's spot. Now, was Kimbrell good? No, he was not. He was all over the place. The control was lacking. But and I'm trying to stay away from this because it's not the reason the Phillies lost, but the zone last night was god-awful. Like, it was absolutely terrible umpiring. Just bad for both sides. It's not even just the Phillies. It was just in an NLCS game. That was terrible, terrible, terrible umpiring. You saw it with an Alec Bohm strikeout earlier on in the game where he should have struck out like 3 times in the same at bat. And part of you is like, why do you not swing at that? And how do you not swing at it again? And then you get a third chance and you don't swing at it. And to me, I agree with that. But at the same time, you have to keep this in mind, right? Imagine you're hitting and a pitcher throws a ball right down the middle and the umpire says ball. Like, okay, I guess that's a ball now. I thought it was a strike. It looked to be right there, but I guess that's a ball. And then you go and you see it again, ball. Like, okay, that's a ball. Then they throw it a third time, strike 3. What? You just called it a ball like 3 times. What are you talking about? That's the thing. It was so inconsistent. Sometimes when you get a pitch that looks like a strike to the batter and is called a ball, it can mess with where you think the zone is. I'm not making excuses for the Phillies offense. They still should have been able to figure some stuff out against the pitcher in Brandon Pfaadt, who does not have that good of numbers and is not proven at this level. Like, you should have still scored more runs, but the zone was all over the place. And in Craig Kimbrell's case, he had a couple pitches that were strikes that were not called strikes. And then he had a couple pitches that were not strikes that were called strikes. Like, it messes with a closer's head. And Kimbrell is a little bit of a guy who can get influenced by some external stimuli. I'm trying to say this as politically as correct as possible and as respectful to Craig Kimbrell as possible. I think sometimes he gets in his own head too much. And I think sometimes a bad call or a baseball that doesn't feel the right way or a runner on second base can entirely throw him off. And that's annoying to see. But he's a future Hall of Famer. You can't argue with the resume. Bottom line is, did he end up costing you the game with that walk-off? Technically, yes. Did the offense have much more of an effect on this game by not creating more than one run and that one run coming by way of a wild pitch? Absolutely. The offense is the number one fault. And Craig Kimbrell has been really good this postseason. He's been pretty darn good this year. He was an all-star. Closers are always in big spots. When, I don't know, a guy goes out and the Phillies are up 6, let's just say, I don't know, Matt Strahm, for example. If the Phillies are up 6 and Matt Strahm goes out there and he gives up 2 runs, we're not like, Matt Strahm stinks. We're like, okay, well, they're still up 4, whatever. Like, that doesn't really matter. You're still going to win the game. Closers, like Craig Kimbrell, are always being put in spots where their pitching has a major outcome on the game. It's part of the job, but it's one that allows the fan base to be more critical of them when they have mistakes. I don't think Kimbrell was terrible last night. I don't think he was good enough. But if there's a situation tonight where it's like a 2-run game and the Phillies are leading, guess who's going out there for the 9th inning? I'm putting Craig Kimbrell out there. Like, I'm not giving up on a Hall of Famer because he had a bad game. Did he have a bad game? Yes. But again, this is what we talk about with the evaluation. You have to evaluate the players as a whole, not just as their most recent performance. And while Orion Kirkring and Craig Kimbrell's most recent performances were not great, that's not how I'm evaluating them and their value to this team. I'm just not. They're better than what they showed last night, and it wouldn't have mattered if the offense had scored. So take a deep breath on the bullpen. And good news, if you are still annoyed with the bullpen, well, you have the advantage in this game tonight. Game 4, NLCS, 8:07 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can listen to every pitch of the Phillies hometown radio broadcast of that game on the SiriusXM app. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies, because Arizona's got a bullpen game. And you have a starter going. So we'll jump into a preview of Game 4 coming up as we wrap up today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Next, I want to tell you about my friends over at Sleeper, okay? The MLB playoffs are going on. But we're rounding down, folks. It's the NLCS. You got the World Series right around the corner. There's only so much baseball time left, and that means the clock is ticking on your chance to win 100 times your cash on daily fantasy baseball. Baseball's never been more exciting than it is now. I mean, the NLCS, the World Series, this is the time of the year where everybody zones in on baseball, even the non-baseball fans. There's a lot of people watching. There's a lot of stars playing. And with those stars, well, you can pick stats like home runs, hits, strikeouts, and more, and say, oh, okay, I think Bryce Harper's going to have over this home run number. I think Alec Bohm is going to have under this hits number. I think Craig Kimbrell is going to have over the strikeouts number. You get how it works. You pick the stat, you pick the player, you pick over or under, and you go ahead and you put it all together. You can have up to 8 in a whole selections sheet, and then next thing you know, you can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy baseball. It's super easy, super quick, The interface is awesome to use. I love Sleeper. It's the best way to play daily fantasy baseball. And plus, when you use promo code Locked On, you'll get up to a $100 match in your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Go ahead and check out Sleeper, my number one place for daily fantasy baseball. All right, let's wrap up with a preview of Game 4 tonight. Cristopher Sanchez gets the start for your Philadelphia Phillies. Very interesting. Cristopher Sanchez has not started in a while. He has not thrown in a while. You have not seen Cristopher Sanchez on a mound in a minute, and now he's stepping in Game 4 of the NLCS. How good should we feel about Cristopher Sanchez? Well, ESPN doesn't feel too good about him. 48.5% chance for the Philadelphia Phillies. The Diamondbacks favored in this one according to the ESPN matchup predictor, but Philly minus 130 on the money line, so Vegas still likes Philly. Cristopher Sanchez is not thrown yet in the postseason, but the Diamondbacks have a bullpen game. They're going to start out with Jase Medical, who Jase Medical got smoked after coming in for Merrill Kelly in Game 2. He's going to start this game. He's a lefty, throws from kind of a weird angle, but they pulled Brandon Pfaadt. The Diamondbacks pulled Pfaadt in the 6th inning last night. Then they had to get 7th, 8th, 9th, all from their bullpen. And they had already used a lot of their bullpen when Merrill Kelly went out. And Zach Gallen didn't go too deep into the game. I mean, their bullpen's taxed already. And now you're throwing a bullpen game. Go ahead and take care of business tonight because they should be going an inning at a time. Now, maybe that's a bit of a tough thing. You don't get into a rhythm against the pitcher, but they only have so many guys. It's not an expanded playoff roster. No, they only have so many arms available, and they don't want to burn them all out in Game 4 of a 7-game series. This could be a pitching disaster for the Diamondbacks. On the Phillies' hand, though, I mean, Cristopher Sanchez, 3.44 ERA, 96 strikeouts, a 105 whip. His numbers are good, but when you look at his game log, the last time he pitched was September 30th. Today is October 20th. That's a long, long time between appearances. Cristopher Sanchez is, I'm sure, been throwing bullpens and staying ready and everything like that, but at 8:07 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight, which is when the Phillies play the Diamondbacks, you can check it all out on the SiriusXM app. Go to the SXM app and search Phillies, and you'll be able to pull up the hometown radio broadcast of that Phillies game. Cristopher Sanchez is going to be in a big spot tonight. He really is. A young pitcher. I mean, we just talked about it with Ryan Kerkering. A guy who's been really good, but eventually sometimes those guys run into trouble. I like the Phillies tonight, but it's going to rest heavily on Cristopher Sanchez because I don't think the offense is going to be quiet again. I really don't. I'm not too worried about the offense. Like the one tweak I'd make again, Bohm, not batting cleanup. Outside of that, just trust your guys. They've been good enough. They have. They've hit all postseason. They're going to continue to hit. They had an off night. You're not going to go all the way through the MLB playoffs without having a bad game. It's just an impossible thing to expect. But you're playing a team that you're better than, and you're playing a team that you should take care of tonight. There's no other way to put it. You're still the more talented team. You have the better pitching matchup in this one. You have the better offense in this one. You have just about the better everything in this one. And you have the depth in the pitching staff. Like, it's way better for the Phillies than it is for the Diamondbacks. Last night sucked. It sucks losing a game. Sucks losing a game on walk-off. Tip your cap, move on. You're still the better team. You still hold a series lead. You still got technically home field advantage, I guess. Yeah, you got 2 more games at home. So you technically still have home field advantage. Not that should matter because you should take care of business out there in the desert. And I think we're going to be feeling a lot better tonight at about like 11 p.m. when this game gets ready to wrap up. So everyone take a deep breath. Believe in the Phillies. They're going to bounce back tonight. Cristopher Sanchez needs to be really good, and the offense needs to wake up. But outside of that, I mean, just keep doing what you're doing, Phils. Defense, bullpen pitching, starting pitching, all been really, really good. Go out and beat a team that's not as good as you. Take a stranglehold on the series and put their backs up against the wall. We'll be feeling a lot better later. That's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much for checking us out. Appreciate it. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that good stuff. And I'll talk to you next time on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.